we're going to use a circumference formula. We're going to try to use it in a couple different ways, and I'm going to talk about what it really is. Okay, so C stands for circumference, and circumference is equal to d times pi. Well, those are both odd things because neither of those are numbers. So d stands for the diameter, okay, and that's a part of a circle, which we'll talk about. And pi stands for, it's a symbol.
0.14
yeah.
Something.
Yeah. A number that goes on forever. Okay. Oops. I want to bring this to the other page. There we go. I can push it in my calculator here and push enter, and here is the number, and it continues farther past that. Okay, but it's just a symbol so that we don't have to write all of these numbers out. Okay, so your calculator memorizes what that number is. Okay, or the formula can read circumference is equal to 2 times r, which is again just a letter. It's a radius, a part of the circle, times pi. Again, pi. So pi is involved in both. The only difference is the 2r and the diameter. So we're going to talk about how we can, they kind of look like they're replacing each other. So we have a circle here. And the circumference is essentially the distance around the circle. So let's say I'm starting there. The circumference would be going all the way around this, back to here. Okay? It's really known as it's known as circumference, but it's really the perimeter of the circle. Okay? They just call it circumference because it makes a circular shape. Instead of just finding the perimeter is the adding up of all sides, except there really is no sides to a circle. It's a continuous line shaped into a circular format. Okay, so they call it circumference, but it is perimeter. Falls under that idea. The diameter is the distance from one end of the circle to the other when going through the middle. Okay, so you have to go through the middle of the circle to get the diameter. And the radius is the distance from the middle of the circle to the outside, anywhere. There's so many different types of radii, I think they call them, but these are all would be considered a single radius. Okay, lots of different types of them. Since the diameter goes from one side all the way to the other, crossing through the middle, it's twice as long as the radius. Okay, so in other words, the diameter is equal to 2 times the radius, which is what we got here. 2r, 2 times r, is the same idea as diameter. So depending what information they've given us, we can use either formula. If they only gave us the radius, we can jump right to this formula. If they only gave us the diameter, we can go to that formula. But we can use either, as long as we know the relationship between diameter and radius. So we're going to write that down. We know that the diameter is equal to 2 times r. That's important information for us. Okay. So let's measure this circle right here. I'm going to count the radius. Looks like it's 1, 2, 3 units. Okay, so we'll call it 3 centimeters in this case. So we know that r is equal to 3 centimeters. Okay, what does that make the diameter? The diameter is a little harder to count here. In fact, it's hard to see this by counting. If we put into this formula, what will the diameter be? The diameter is 2 times, we'll replace r with the number 3. 6. That's right, the diameter is 6 centimeters. And that looks like it. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. And they're all diagonal, so that was a terrible count. I don't know why I counted that way, but it is 6. If we count it across, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that would make sense. Okay, so we know it's 6 centimeters. So we can use either formula. Let's go about doing that. Circumference is equal to diameter times pi, or circumference is equal to 2r pi. So diameter is 6, so we have 6 pi, or 6 times pi. Or in this case, we have 2 times the radius, which is 3, times pi. Okay, there's a rule in math called associative property. It means we can multiply in any order. So I'm going to multiply 2 times 3. What is that going to give us?
6.
Yeah, and 6 times pi. So we're at the exact same spot now. We just did an extra step on the formula on the right. And we're going to figure out what 6 times pi is. So we get out our calculator. 6 multiplied by pi is equal to this repeating number. And we'll round it to, well, about 1 decimal place. Or maybe 2, actually. 18.85, we'll say. So the circumference is equal to 18.85 centimeters. And we know that's the same in both because these are both the same idea. Okay, so we just found the circumference and we figured out what diameter and radius are. What if, okay, what if they gave us the circumference and they said the circumference is equal to 20 centimeters? Okay, and then they asked you, let's say they ask you what's the diameter. Okay, so we got to plug it into a formula. So we know we have two formulas. We have circumference equals d times pi, and we have circumference equals 2r pi. Now they want to use diameter, so which one of these formulas should we use?
2r.
Is there a diameter in this one?
Oh, no.
No. Which one should we use, you think, then?
The c equals d times
Yeah, the one that has diameter. What if they ask you what is diameter and radius? So let's use both. We'll go about solving both of these. When they tell us c is 20, that means we're going to replace the letter c, okay, with the number 20. And we'll do it for both of these. Okay, so we'll replace it with 20. 20 equals d times pi. 20 equals 2r pi. So this one's a little harder to talk about, okay? And it might be easier to actually just use this formula, but we can talk about how to do this one. We got to get d by itself. How do I move pi? Think of pi as a number. If it's multiplication, how do I move it to the other side? What does it become?
It would become division.
That's right. So it becomes 20 divided by pi equals the diameter. Now, this one's a little harder, okay? I want you to think of it like this. Think of it like we're going to move one thing at a time. So this is 2 times r times pi. Let's say I want to move the 2. Because it's multiplication, how do I move the 2? It's multiplied here. You just set it over here.
You move it to the left.
Yeah, by using what?
By using division.
Yeah. Okay, so we still have r and pi. Now we know 20 divided 2 is 10, is equal to r times pi. And we already said over here to get the r, or the letter by itself, we divide by pi. So we have 10 divided by pi equals r. Okay, so we're going to get with two different answers here. The first one we'll get 20 divided by pi equals 6.4, roughly, rounded it up. So diameter is 6.4. And in this one, 10 divided by pi gives us 3.2-ish, we'll say. Roughly 3.2. Now, here's the question. Is this radius half as long as the diameter? We know that radius times 2 has to equal the diameter. Did that work out? Is 3.2 times 2? That's right, it works out. So we know we're using the same circle. So we did everything you could possibly do with our circumference formula. We found circumference, found diameter, and found radius all in that way.